In this video session, I am explaining about few concepts from J2EE and JDBC from Model 5 Subject Advanced Java and J2EE. In this slide, we are discussing about statement interface object. Once the connection has been established to the database, next is we need to create the statement and execute the query. In order to create and execute the query, there are three different statement objects are used. The first one is statement object, second one is PreparedStatement object, third one is CallableStatement object. The statement interface objects are used when we are going to perform operation on static query. Here the queries are never going to be compiled, the queries are directly going to be get executed, whereas in PreparedStatement interface object is going to perform operation on dynamic query. Here the queries are going to compile first, then the queries are going to be get executed. In whenever you want to perform operation on a stored procedure concept, then we'll make use of an callable statement interface object. These are the three different ways we can create and execute the query. Here we are explaining about creating the statement object. Before executing the SQL statement, first we need to create the statement. In order to create the statement, we'll make use of a method called createStatement method. The createStatement is a method which is belonging to the interface called createConnectionInterface. The return value of the createStatement method will be assigned to the interface. Let us see an example here. To create the statement, we use the method called createStatement method, which is belonging to the interface called ConnectionInterface. So with the help of ConnectionInterface object, we invoke the method called createStatement method, and the return value of this method will be assigned to the statement interface. Once the statement has been created, then we need to execute the SQL query. In order to execute the SQL query, we'll make use of three different methods, that is execute method with one argument, execute update method with one argument, execute query with one argument. These are the three different methods which are being used to execute the query. Let us see first. The execute method takes then one argument of type string SQL, and the return value will be assigned to the boolean value. This method is going to return a boolean value true if the result set object can be retrieved. Means once the query has been executed and the values are be retrieved from the table, then the method is going to return a true. Otherwise, if the no values has been retrieved from the table, then the method is going to return a false. Using this method to execute DDL statement, or when we want to perform operation on dynamic SQL. This type of the methods are being used when you want to execute an DDL statement or when we want to perform operation on dynamic SQL. I already told that PreparedStatement object is an interface which is going to perform operation on dynamic. In that case, I will make use of an execute method. Next method is execute update. The execute update methods are used to perform operation that is in order to manipulate the value to the table. The return value of execute update method is as int value. So the return number of rows affected by the execution of SQL statement. Use this method to execute SQL statement for which you expect to get a number of rows affected. For example, I want to perform operation as insert, update and delete statement. Then I will going to make use of an execute update. The execute update method is mainly used to perform manipulation on the table. It means I want to insert a value to the table, or I want to delete a value from the table, I want to update a value to the table. In that case, we'll make use of an execute update. Then execute query method. The execute query is a method which is going to perform operation, that is to retrieve a value from the table. Whenever you want to retrieve value from the table, in that case we'll make use of an execute query method. The return value of execute query method will be assigned to the result set interface. The execute query method returns a result set object. Using this method, we can accept a result to get, and these methods are going to be perform operation by making use of select statement. This is a simple example of making use of an create statement method used to retrieve a value from the table. Now in this program, first we have loaded the driver by making use of an for name method belonging to the class called class. Once the driver has been loaded, next we need to establish a connection. To establish a connection, we'll make use of a get connection method. Here we are using one argument as an URL to the get connection method, and the get connection method belonging to the class called driver manager, and the return value will be assigned to the connection interface. Next we need to create the statement by making use of a statement object. So to create a statement by making use of a statement object, we'll make use of a method called create statement method. The create statement is a method which is used to create the statement. This method belonging to the interface called as an connection interface. With the help of an connection interface object, I am invoking the method called create statement, and the return value will be assigned to the statement interface. Once the statement has been created, next we need to execute the query. In order to execute the query, we have seen three different methods, that is execute method, execute update method, and execute query method. Here I want to retrieve a value from the table. Whenever you want to retrieve a value from the table, then we'll make use of a method called execute query. The execute query is a method which is going to retrieve a value from the table, and the return value will be assigned to the result set interface. And the execute query method belonging to an interface called as a statement interface. With the help of an statement interface object, I am invoking the execute query methods. Once the values are written from the table, next we need to process the data from the table. In order to process the data from the table, we will make use of a method called next method and getX method. These two are the method which is belonging to an interface called as a result set. The next method is always going to point to the first row of the table. The return value of next method is true or false. The method is going to return a true if the tables contain a row. Otherwise, the table method is going to return a false. Assume that the table contains a row, so the next method is return a true. Next, I want to retrieve a value from the particular columns. Okay, in order to retrieve the value of particular attribute, then we'll make use of an getX method, where X can be replaced with a type of the attribute. So here the X is replaced with a string because the type of attribute is varchar, and this method takes then one argument, that is column index or column name, and the return value will be assigned to the string. Similarly, we will take a second attribute and we are going to print the result name and USN. This process will be repeated until the return value of next method became false. This is a simple program of making use of a statement object, and to create this statement we have used as an create statement method. Next interface is PreparedStatement Object interface. Here the PreparedStatement interface object is going to extend the statement interface. The PreparedStatement object gives an additional functionalities or an advantages over an statement object. The advantage of PreparedStatement is that here we can supply the arguments dynamically compared to the statement object. Let us see an example. I am making use of a PreparedStatement, and the query is select name from employee where USN is equal to question mark. This question mark can be represented as dynamically value can be passed as an argument to this query. So In order to replace this question mark, the prepared statement interface will make use of a method called setX method. The setX is a method which binds the value to the parameter, where X is going to represent the Java data type of the value we wish to bind to the input parameter. Means this X is going to be replaced the type of the attribute in the table. And the setX method takes then two arguments. The first parameter is column index. The second parameter is the value which has to be replaced to the question mark. So I want to replace the question mark with USN 4CB16CS001. Then I will pass that value as an argument to the setX method. The first parameter represents the column index. The second parameter represents the value that replaces the question mark in the query. Next, the different execute method of the prepared statement objects are called. Like I want to retrieve the value, or I want to fetch the value, then I will make use of a different prepared statement object interface. This is a simple example for making use of a prepared statement interface. So here in this example, we can see that I want to retrieving the value from the table of based on the USN number. So first we have loaded the driver by making use of a for name and belonging to the class, and next we have established the connection by making use of a get connection method belonging to the class called driver manager. Now I am making use of a prepared statement interface. The prepared statement interface is a method belonging to the an interface called as an connection interface. It takes then one argument as a string SQL. We are passing an SQL as select name from employee where USN. I want to replace this question mark with a particular USN by passing a dynamic value to the query. So for that, we'll make use of a method called setX method. The setX is a method belonging to the prepared statement interface. So where X is going to replace with a type of the attribute. So here the type of the attribute USN is varchar. So its corresponding Java data type is string. So I replace X with a string. Now I need to specify the column index of USN. The column index of USN in the table was 2. So I specified the column index as 2. Now to which USN I want to fetch this query. So I need to specify the USN as 12CS001. When I specify 12CS001, this value has replaced with a question mark. Now question mark has been replaced with the USN as 12CS001. Now the query became select name from employee where USN is equal to 12CS001. Once the query has been compiled, next I need to execute the query. To execute the query, we'll make use of a method called execute query method, or I can use execute method. So execute query is a method which is belonging to the prepared statement method. Then this query is going to be executed and the rows will be returned to the result set interface. Now with the help of the method of result set interface method, I'm going to fetch name and name from the table. The next type of statement object is callable statement interface object. The callable statement interface object performs similar operation as statement and prepared statement object. The callable statement object mainly is used to perform operation on stored procedure concept. When in order to perform the operation on a table or a stored procedure concept, the three types of the parameter which can be passed as an argument to the callable statement interface. One is in parameter, out parameter and in out parameter. The in parameter which we have seen in a prepared statement object by making use of a setX method. The callable statement object can also use all three parameters such as in, out and in out parameter. So when the parameter is in, the parameter whose value is unknown when the SQL statement is created, means we have seen in a prepared statement, so like example select name from employee where USN is equal to question mark. That question mark is unknown. In that case, I will make use of an in as a parameter. Then we bind the value to the in parameter with setX method, and we have seen that with the help of an setX method we have replaced the value of question mark within the value passed as an argument to the setX method. Okay, whatever the value as bounded in a setX method, those values are going to be replaced with a question mark. In that case, we'll make use of an in parameter. So in parameter can be used in a prepared statement as well as it can be used in a callable statement method. Next is out parameter. The out parameters are being used when you want to retrieve a value from the tables. Okay, whenever you want to retrieve a value from the table, then out parameters are being used. Along with an out parameter, we'll make use of an getX method. We have already seen the getX method job is used to retrieve a value from the table. The out parameter, whose value is supplied by the SQL statement, it returns. You retrieve value from the out parameter with getX method. Like example, select star from employee. Means I am writing a select star from employee. Means I am retrieving all the value from the table employee. In that case, we'll make use of an out parameter by making use of an getX method. Then inOut parameters are used. The inOut parameters are used when you want to perform operation with an unknown SQL statement. After executing it, I want to retrieve a value from the table. In that case, we'll make use of an inOut parameter. A parameter that provides both input and output value. Like question mark has been replaced with by making use of an setX method, input value. And output value is nothing but retrieving the value from the table by making use of an getX method. Like example, select name USN from the table student, where USN is equal to question mark. So that question mark is nothing but in parameter, and getting the name and USN is nothing but out parameter. For that, when we performing operation with in and out parameter, we'll make use of an setX method and getX method. These are the different parameters which are available in a callable statement interface. The callable statement interface is mainly used to perform operation on stored procedure. This is an example for callable statement object interface. The callable statement is mainly used to perform stored procedure concept. Okay, whenever I want to retrieve the data from the table through an stored procedure concept, I will make use of an callable statement interface. Here first we load the driver. Before loading the driver, here I have made use of an MySQL as a database. So I am loading the MySQL driver with the help of a method called forName. The forName is a method belonging to the class. Once the driver has been loaded out, then we are going to establish a connection. So to establish a connection, we are passing an URL as a string to the get connection method. Okay, first it is an JDBC protocol. This is my sub protocol which is keeping the driver of MySQL, and this is data source name where exactly my table are located. So get connection is a method which is going to establish connection to the database, and this is a method belonging to the class called as a driver manager class, and return value will be assigned to the connection interface. Now I have created a stored procedure called as an get data. Get data is the name of the stored procedure. Within that I have written an query so that I want to retrieve the name of the student based on the USN. So get data method takes an two argument. Okay, one is for retrieving the name, another is for USN. So first argument is for name, second argument is for USN as given in the table order. Okay, then in order to call the stored procedure, we'll make a method called prepare call. Prepare call is a method which is belonging to the connection interface and mainly is used to call the stored procedure called get data, and the return value will be assigned to the callable statement interface. Now I want to replace the question mark. Okay, I want to replace this question mark with an USN, because USN is a second attribute. So I am specifying the in order to replace question mark. We'll make use of a method called setX method, and X is going to be replaced with the type of the attribute. For USN, the type of the attribute is in varchar and its corresponding Java data type is string. So X has been replaced with string. So the method called setString. The setString is a method belonging to the callable statement interface, and the USN is a second attribute in the table. So I am checking the USN number CS001. Okay, this value has been replaced to the question mark. Now the query is going to find out select a name from student table where USN is equal to CS001. The value of CS001 has been replaced the question mark, and this question mark is used to retrieve the name from the table. So here in this program I am making use of an in parameter. So in parameter y means I am making use of set x method. So I want to replace this question mark. So I made use of an register in parameter and specified the attribute type and type of the attribute, column index and type of the attribute. And I want to retrieve the name of the name from the table. For that we'll making use of an register out parameter. So register out parameter is the method which is going to retrieve the value from the table. So I want to retrieve the name attribute from the table. So name attribute from the table is located in the index 1 and its also type is varchar as specified. Then once the register in and register out parameter has been finalized, then I will execute the query. Once the query has been executed, I want to retrieve the name. Okay, in order to retrieve the name, so I will make use of an getX method. GetX is a method which is going to retrieve the name which is pointed out by the CallableStatement interface object, and the name is an first attribute. So I'll pass as an column index to the getX method. So x has been replaced with an attribute type, that is the getString method, and taking the column index as 1. Where column index 1 is for the name attribute. It is going to retrieve the name and stored into the temporary variable called as a string name. Then I am printing the name. So this is how the callable statement will be work. In this program we made use of a register in parameter and register out parameter. If register in parameter has been used, then we need to make use of a setX method to replace the question mark. And if register out parameter has been used, then we need to use an getX method to retrieve the value from the table once the call procedure, once the stored procedure has been executed.
These are the reference which have been referred in the entire slide. The textbook is Albert Stead Java, the complete reference, 7th edition, Tata McGrail and Jim Cook, and reference book are Daniel Lang, Stephens and Uttam K. Roy. These are the textbook which are going to be referred.